All right. Welcome, welcome. This is a special edition of the Public Works Podcast. I'm joined by two fine gentlemen. We're here talking about roots today. It's something that none of us know about, but kind of just haven't really dug deep into it. No pun intended. Got two fine gentlemen with us. I'll go ahead and intro myself. My name is Joseph Blackman for Vitendo Training Solutions and also the host of the Public Works Podcast. Kent, go ahead and give us an intro, who you are, what you work for, and then we'll get to Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joseph. Kent Dalton is my name, and I am with West Coast Equipment and Safety Supply. And I've been here for this industry for about 25 years. And this year, next month, we get to celebrate 26 years as a company, West Coast Equipment and Safety Supply.
Nice, nice. 25, 26 years. Justin, go ahead and tell us about yourself, how long you've been in the industry, and give us a why you're qualified to talk about roots.
Well, okay, I been in the industry since 1994, and I started off in chemical root control, designing equipment and machinery used to apply chemical products to control roots and sewers. Over the years, I moved into sales, and now I own my own rep firm called Effect Industries, and I represent root control products, among other things. And I've worked with countless municipalities all over the world, Canada, South America, US. And it's been a great business to be in.
Answer this one for me, Justin. So it sounded like you started off on kind of the scientific side. You were more so about the control, and now you're on the sales side. So what's kind of had what had to have been the change of like mindset from working behind the scenes on the root control and now having to sell it?
Yeah, in 1994, I was working in an office doing a lot of computer-aided design work, and that was actually, back then it was a lot different than it is now. And just about a year into that, I didn't like sitting in a windowless office, and a couple times I'd been invited out to the field to work with customers and found that I liked that a lot more. I like being out in the sunshine and the fresh air, and working with all this big heavy duty machinery that we work with in the sewer business.
Sure, sure. So Kent, give us a 30,000-foot view on root control, like what it is, what it's about, and then something that like there might be some misconceptions about it.
Sure. Control is kind of important, specifically in what we inside pipes. Roots grow everywhere. Comes to piping, which is the industry that we're seeing, anything related to pipes or tubes is where we're at. And when roots get into the pipe, it clogs it up. And when it clogs it up, there's things that go down that pipe, specifically wastewater and the things that come alongside that. And when it starts to back up, it can be a problem and not a pretty problem. And things can come out other places. So if we don't get rid of that blockage, big problem with that. That can be quite a mess, right? And so there's other things that can come about with that. So if we don't roots, either one, cut them out or eliminate them in other methods, community can be affected. And there's other complications with that as well.
I'm sure, I'm sure. So how does one know you have a root control problem in a pipe? I mean, until it backs up and you send a camera down there and go, oh, we got root issues. How does one know? And OG told me one time, he said, Joseph, if you look at a row of trees and you see one tree that's like a lot taller than the rest of them, that one tree probably found some water that the other ones didn't, and it might be in a pipe. So, how do you know if you actually have a root problem before you go digging and searching for it?
Sure, sure. One of the ways that we routinely want to is we make an inspection, a piping inspection. So we'll send a camera down the pipeline, and we can see what the condition of the pipe is, but as well as what kind of buildup that we have in there, and if there's any root growth. And we have a general idea on where the roots are going to be coming from. Sometimes we're surprised. So that's one way. Others, we can see what the flow is. We have different flow monitors throughout a community. And if we've got more flow in one area and less in another that is making a change, we can certainly notice that there's a difference there. The most common way would be a pipe inspection with a camera on a. We even have We even have drone cameras that go down pipelines, which is absolutely amazing. That's a totally new
Drone.
technology. Drones, yeah,
Like
yeah,
they fly down a
yeah,
pipe
yeah, yeah.
and
Like the
it,
drones that you see that you're seeing up in the sky. We have them actually that go in the pipelines. Totally, and we
wow.
3D map them too. That's totally new, not related to roots, but surely could be, right? Because they're in
Yeah,
pipes.
yeah. Tomato, tomato. Justin, let's say we find some roots, right? What will be the first line of defense? Like, what's the pawn on the chessboard in regards to figuring out the root situation and eradicating?
Well, the first thing you have to do, normally when you find a root problem, it's an acute problem that you need to fix at the time, and so you're going to go in and remove those roots. And there's any number of ways you can attack that with really high-tech sewer cleaning nozzles we have nowadays. All back to 1930s technology with a rotting machine, which some municipalities still utilize.
And
And
even robots too, which we have.
yeah, and so the first thing to do is to open the pipe and make sure it flows. And that's actually some circumstances that can be a tenuous time too. If you have a stoppage that's backed up really far in a line in a big pipe, you open up a stoppage and you get a rush of all sorts of stuff. And there's things you have to worry about, like hydrogen sulfide gas, overflowing sewage, all sorts of things. And that's stuff that Kent can help you with too, because they also have gas detectors and all sorts of stuff that address those concerns.
Interesting. So roots aren't pretty much like root control isn't a standalone product because you want to have some type of safety equipment involved with it. Am I correct, Kent?
Absolutely. So, for example, if you're going to have a blockage or something is going to slow down, you've got H2S gases that are going to come about. One, you have an issue that you smell. If you're going into a community, go, oh man, what is that sour smell? Well, it's you've got some H2S gases are coming out. But when you go down and service them, you need to make sure that it's a safe condition. So we have gas detection as well. You can when you're servicing it. But in addition, we have equipment that will go in and sit in the manhole, and it'll tell you one what your levels are for each or others. But as well, we have one system that you can actually tell if it smells or not. That's just so bizarre. But this is what's available today in today's technology, and it's all cloud based. So these are the things, and then when you get in there, we have breathing equipment and so much stuff. There's so much involved when you're doing that most people don't even think about it, but it's critical.
What would you say is the most susceptible type of pipe or material of pipe to roots? I mean, clay, PVC. Which ones are like? Let's say you put a pipe down, like, oh, this one will probably get impacted by roots sooner or later.
Hmm.
So,
I've seen it in all different types, right? Maybe Justin, you might know better than me because you bleed roots more than I do. But although, right?
so traditionally, we're dealing with clay pipes more. See roots in all types of pipes, including PVC pipes. What advantages to PVC pipes is they have the joints are further apart, and joints are where the roots come in a lot. There's all sorts of the pipe. The roots can enter the pipe, and one of the number one entry for roots is the service lateral. And all of our customers deal with that in root control and have televising CCTV inspection equipment. Everybody has looked up that service lateral, and you go, how does this person flush their toilet? And they don't find out they have a stoppage until Thanksgiving when the toilet gets flushed 20 times. And so that's actually the number one source of real bad root balls that end up in the sewer main line.
Wow, I would have thought it would have been just cracks in the pipe underground, but coming through the lateral or the
Yeah, joints are a real commonplace, but the reason where the service lateral is located that goes to the home or building, a really hot spot for roots is because when they punch a hole in the main line, and put a pipe into it. Then they'll put things like cement grout or something around the pipe to seal it up. And none of that is very tight or watertight, and the roots find their way through it. All they need is an opening smaller than the size of a human hair. So a root cell can get in there. And then once the root starts growing, it can open any material. You could have a steel pipe and it would open it up once it starts growing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. What do you say is interval maintenance? Like when you think of keeping grease down, there's stuff that you put in the pipe to kind of eat at it. Like how do you over time maintain a pipe to make sure there aren't roots in there?
Well, so on normal maintenance for sewer pipes in every now the state of California has some guidelines for that municipalities submit with their plans to the water boards and such, and they'll specify that over a certain amount of years they need to clean the entire system, and have a certain timeline that they have to actually kind of put something inside of every single pipe, and things that as you talk to municipalities, they're aware of where they have severe root problems, and they'll call them their hot spot lines, and they'll set them up to go clean every 6 months or every 3 months or something like that. And I've seen it as common or as often in some of the smaller 6-inch pipes. I've seen municipalities that had to go to a pipe every 6 weeks to keep the roots out because they'll grow back that quick in a small pipe and block it up. And to cut the roots, they just grow faster and faster every time you cut them. So you're creating more work as the years go by.
Is there anything you could do topical to stop the roots going into the pipe?
Yeah, there is. There is actually things that they can wrap pipes in that have growth inhibitors in them, and those can be somewhat effective. And then also just some control of what trees are planted near the sewer pipes. In Southern California, there used to be more ficus trees than there are now, but don't get those anywhere near sewer lines, and try to keep the eucalyptus trees away and the willow trees away from your sewer pipes, and you'll have a few less problems.
Why are those notorious for inhibiting the sewer line?
Well, ficus trees, their roots will grow all the way around the pipe. So normally when you run a camera through a pipe, you'll see roots just coming out of the top of the pipe. They don't actually grow underwater. Tree roots aren't normally aquatic plants. And so they grow above the flow in the airspace. And in the airspace, you have all of the nutrients. You have a vapor form of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate, which is your basic ingredients in fertilizer. So you have a perfect hydroponic environment in a sewer. And ficus trees will grow all the way around the pipe. Just trees are real aggressive when they start growing, and they're hard to get rid of. And then willow trees are unique because they are somewhat aquatic. They're kind of like an aquatic plant. If you look at willow trees around a small pond or a lake, you'll see the roots growing in the water. Those ones you'll see where you have these roots that go hundreds of feet down the pipe because that's what they're made to do.
Yeah, this question is for both of you. Like, what's the craziest thing you've seen pulling out a root? Like the longest, thickest? Give me some stories.
Boy,
I've seen some roots that are a city block long. Okay,
sure.
And they use a winch to get them out. And I've seen in really large pipes where they use a full machine and they just basically winch the roots out of the pipe. And it's just unbelievable, the size and weight of the roots. And I've also been in a TV camera van years ago where you saw roots, but the tree wasn't anywhere near the pipe. You couldn't even see the tree. It was on the next block over. So wow. The idea that the roots only go out to the drip line of the tree isn't quite true.
It's funny, just an example that you had talked about. Someone said, if you see a tree that's tall, it's probably because it's getting water. There's a community here in LA County line that was going through. This was 18 inches is what it was. And there was this tree that had found its way into the pipeline. And it was the biggest tree in the entire block in this cul-de-sac. And it had clogged up this line. And it had a droop that went down low, and it came up, and you couldn't get to it. And so we had this community stopped using some product that we have that eliminates the growth of that. And unfortunately, over time, this 18-inch line got clogged and had as big as 4.5-inch, 5-inch root in this pipeline, and it completely covered it. So in this case, we had to actually get one of our buy the equipment, Sewer Robotics, to one of our customers, it's a tractor, and they went in and they took it out there for us.
Wow,
that's amazing stuff, right?
Yeah, it's huge. What point, right? California, whether it's a drought versus the rain, do you see a difference in like root inhibit or root attacks on pipeline? Like if there's a drought, are they going to find water more often, or if there's torrential rain, are they saying, "Hey, I don't need the water from the pipe; I can find water elsewhere"?
So traditionally, what I explained to people was roots were looking for nutrients, because they can even, if you plant a tree, once a full-grown tree is even planted out in the desert, the roots can usually find moisture. However, the recent drought that we've had a couple of them in the last 20 years that were very severe, and that's the first time I personally saw huge spikes in root problems during a drought, because I think it was just an extremely severe drought problem. And now I work with in Australia that do chemical root control, and they have very similar in Southern Australia. Their weather is very similar to mine here in Northern California, and they've had severe droughts in recent years. And I've seen we actually have toilets in a house where what we call eucalyptus trees, they call them gum trees, the roots were growing up through the toilet. And so I've seen just some really severe things during extreme drought conditions.
Wow. Have you noticed a difference between the U.S. and overseas, like roots and trees, or is it pretty much synonymous?
It's everywhere. Anywhere you go that has trees and sewers, they have the same problem. Now, I can say if you go to like the northern part of the U.S., the upper Midwest, and you get into Canada, have these winters, and the deciduous trees, the ones that drop their leaves, they respond more vigorously in those areas have severe winters. And so I have noticed more extreme issues where there's severe winters.
Oh, okay. All right, let's talk equipment next. Kent, give us kind of like your Swiss Army knife of a piece of equipment. It could be a nozzle, it could be water, or what is like the best practice to be able to eradicate roots from a pipeline?
There are several ways. The most common way that's going to be the most effective, least expensive to get into, it's going to be a nozzle. We have nozzles that are rotating head nozzles that can remove and cut off, not necessarily cut, but because of the pressure that's coming out of the nozzle, it can knock down the roots. But sometimes when the roots get a little bit thicker, you need to have a cutting head. And so we have nozzles that do that as well. Whatever size the pipeline is, whether 6-inch pipes or whether we're up to 24-inch pipes, we have units have diamond tipped cutting heads that whether they have a blade on them or whether they have a diamond tip that cuts the scale that builds up inside there. So that's one way. Another way would be, as I mentioned before, Sewer Robotics is a product. It's a camera, but it also has high pressure jetting, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 PSI going through and cutting back roots. In addition, we have mechanical cut can go on that camera system. Very, very unique. We also have foaming. If you can imagine a shaving cream that you squeeze and you put on your face, we have a product that's a chemical foaming that will fill up the pipeline and attaches to the roots, and then those roots go away.
Wow,
Come
wow,
back
that's
by
pretty
and
cool.
blow it out because they're dead.
Yeah, yeah. Do sold nozzles in the past, and it's one of those things that like customers say, oh, one nozzle, just same as every other nozzle. What would you say is the most, like not GPM PSI, but like the angles of the jets, the amount of the speed you're running up the pipeline, the amount of times you pass by the roots. Like, what's some rules of thumb for a guy who's on a sewer truck, he's got a nozzle? What should he be looking to do to be able to cut those roots?
Hmm. So a lot of it that we're seeing that we're getting good use out of for just a rotating head nozzle, I think that they're running near 30-degree angle, but also 17 and 10, depending upon how we're moving that. Typically, we can knock something down in about 2 passes, but if it's worse than that, then we're going to hit it several more times. But then you run out of water, right? Or you put a cutter head on it that will certainly aggressively rip that out. And we can control the throw on those cutters because we could centralize it into the pipeline. So we have an 8-inch pipe, we'll get it centralized, and that blade will go out 7 7/8 of an inch so that we're not cutting into the pipe. Um, but one of the things that we have an advantage with in regards for cutting out the root, if you look over my shoulder here, this is one of our trucks that just never runs out of water because it continuously recycles. Often you're using a truck and you're jetting, right? You're good for 15, maybe 20 minutes until you're empty of water, unless you're dynamic with water continuously filling your tank. You got to stop and then go fill it up, and then you come back again, which can take a week in some cases to do a job. Whereas we can sit on with this recycling truck, never need to get water again because it never runs out. And so that's a great advantage just in regards for talking about nozzles and the water
Yeah.
supply.
What would you say is something that you're out in the field, you see guys doing that it might be a misconception or something they were taught and it might be completely wrong nowadays. Like something like, oh man, if you guys just switched this or you did this, you'd operate 50% more efficient. What's something that you think guys should know that they might be doing wrong out in the field right now?
Hmm. What do you think, Justin? I know a lot of people think you just spend more time. Not necessarily that it's a misconception, but if you need to spend more time on it, right? You get yourself in a root ball, you
Yeah.
have to continue to hit it and you hit it and you hit it right until it goes, because most people have the same old methods that they've always had. They're unwilling to, let's say, for example, that nozzle that's a really good nozzle, it might cost $4,000, right? Which is a lot of money for a nozzle. But if you've got a mechanical cutter, which could be 3 times as much, you can certainly get the job done a lot faster. It's just what it is. But some people just aren't willing to spend the money to get that, right? Because they just don't have the budget dollars for it. So they can call us and we put one of our contractors out there.
So one of the things that I actually fell victim to early on was I was at a trade show and I saw this chain flail, and you would think that would just destroy the roots because they put a 2x4 in the pipe and it turns it into sawdust.
I've seen that
And
demo, yeah.
yeah, and what was interesting was I had a customer show me a video where they ran a camera in front of it as they're, from the other side of the roots. And it hadn't occurred to me that this would happen. So as this thing is spinning really, really fast, flinging these chains around, and it creates a lot of air movement, a vortex. And the roots would blow up against the side of the pipe, and as they're going through, and then as they pull back, they'd fall back down, and they weren't cutting anything. And it took them, I want to say it took them about like 100 passes to cut some roots out. And they had switched to this really expensive system from using a nozzle with this little hydraulic motor and a kind of this little bandsaw thing that cuts the roots out. They had switched from that to this chain flail thing, and then they ended up going back to the little bandsaw type thing. And but sometimes modern technology looks great, and then it doesn't do, what you think it's going to do inside of a pipe. And sewer people
Sure.
are very familiar with that because they've seen everything under the sun over the last, several decades I've been in this business.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of those demos where like, oh, this looks great, and then it gets in the pipe and it's like, what? It's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Now, one of the things that Kent brought up on the sewer robotics, there is a huge, huge benefit that system offers that really nothing else offers. And that's when you're going down, you're running this little robot down the sewer, and the root balls that come out of the service lateral that I was talking about, a lot of times a root saw or a water cut nozzle will just cut them off, open the stoppage in that service lateral where that root ball is. And I've seen this countless videos of somebody I know that runs one of these. They'll pan up and look up the service lateral, and they'll blast out that root ball in the lateral, and it opens up the stoppage that the homeowner didn't know they had. And I don't really know of any other system that can do that. There's some lateral launching technology for cameras, but not many things can do what that sewer robotics can do in that instance.
That sounds pretty neat. Well, let's talk chemicals. I used to get this question a lot when I was out in the field, sales for this type of equipment. They say these foams are great; they kill the roots, but will it kill Mary's 88-year-old oak tree in front of her home? like will it go down line and our kids come out with like 18 toes? So what's the I guess the environmental implications of these chemicals?
Great question. I've had the great experience of selling a restricted use pesticide to environmentalists for my entire career. And that's, that question comes up all the time. But one of the combination chemicals that I deal with that has two herbicides in it, developed at the University of California, Davis in the late 1960s. And that was one of the things they were concerned about because, like, for example, if you've ever sprayed glyphosate, which is also known as Roundup, around your house for plants, the whole purpose of that herbicide is to kill the whole plant. It's systemic. Herbicides that we're using for root control, they're called pre-emergence and contact. They're all contact herbicides, so they kill what they touch, and they don't go very far into the plant. And there's a good reason for that. If we actually killed the trees and branches were falling off on cars or even worse, you can imagine the liability involved. And fortunate thing for us now is that a lot of the technology of applying it was developed cities when the chemistry was being developed and did a process where they'd plug the sewer line downstream and flood it with the herbicides. And you can imagine a few houses got flooded during those tests and studies. And a year later, we don't have that issue. I think if it was to come out now, we're trying to develop that technology now, very difficult, in today's litigious environment.
Oh yeah, they guys get ripped apart with one tree falling because of some chemicals downline. So
Yeah.
I get it. Can I add to that? Anything you've seen out there where people ask you, "Hey man, does this do this or will this mess up that?" You're like, "No man, relax."
That's a common and often stories get told or rumors come about. And we've been supplying this product that we have for years, and it's a safe product. We say, oh, I heard you can't use this. It'll ruin the water. You can't send it to the treatment plant. And we have documentation from different treatment plants. This is an approved, acceptable, but there's always somebody who's going to say something and it just continues to get spiraled out of control. But I'm thankful that we have a safe product that's accessible.
Sure. Let's talk more about your companies you guys represent. West Coast Equipment and Safety Supply. Can go ahead and give us a rundown of the offerings you have, and then in regards to nozzles, root control, stuff like that. What kind of offerings do you have for that?
Yeah, boy, I gotta say, I could sit here and talk for a very long time because we have a lot of products, services. We are just for saying our focus is anything related to the water industry, the wastewater industry, and the pressure vessel with tube industry, which is pretty broad. It's oil refineries, power generation, of that nature, and they cross over. For example, at a treatment plant, you have digester gas that comes about. You have gas, and you want to burn that. Well, it goes through a boiler, which is a pressure vessel with tubes, and that can create energy. It can create electricity. We have a facility here nearby that actually they're converting their gas into natural gas that they're selling back into the system. So that's our scope. But water, we can monitor what the pressure is, what the flow is, the flow rate, whether it's contact or non-contact flow meters. Do you want to turn off a water valve remotely for billing department? Somebody doesn't pay their bill, we can turn the water off remotely, and a tremendous item. So those are some of the things water-wise. Wastewater collections. I had made mention of our truck that we supply. Never runs out of water, and I hate to say it never runs out of water because at some point you run out of water, but we really don't. We can run millions of gallons of water, and less than 2% of it is fresh water. The rest is all wastewater. That's an amazing thing. What that means is money that you don't have to fill up with water. That's huge. The truck pays for itself. Safety equipment, right? We're talking about, in this case, we're going into a confined space area. Well, you need to check the area conditions. Is it a safe condition or not? Do you need to have a breathing equipment? Do you need to have a mask? Do you need to have harness? Do you need to be dropped down into it? Do you need lighting? Do you need clothing? Right? Those are things. Talking about the roots, we're talking about the nozzles. We're talking about robotics. We have, so one of our customers, he had introduced us into a large group, and he says that he appreciates us because we are a one-stop shop concierge service. I thought that was a great picture of us. I never heard that before, but that was appreciated when he did that, because we really are a one-stop shop. We have so much to offer,
You know,
and
I noticed that. I looked at your offer and I'm thinking, like, as a salesman, I'd probably be terrified at first because there's so many things you have to sell, right? Or you have to be able to sell. But then I learned it's like in our industry, it's a relationship sale. So when Kent meets Justin, right? You guys become golf buddies and you're best friends forever. Now Justin can go to Kent and say, "Hey, I got all this stuff I got going on. What do you have for this? What do you have for that? What do you have for this?" And now that since that relationship is formed, you guys can do business in all these different types of niches like safety, nozzles, even heavy equipment like a Kaiser, Aquastar, the truck or
yeah,
recycler truck, which is pretty cool. But at first, it's like, man, I got to know everything about this and I got to know everything about that and everything about that, which can kind of be daunting. But I appreciate it. I like
sure.
it.
We have a lot of fantastic customers that we love serving and supporting, whether they're municipalities or contractors or end users. But an amazing amount of partners that we're partnered with for manufacturers and these technologies. A lot of the technologies that we have, honestly, come from Europe, right? I'm a true blue diehard American, right? As we all are, but some of the technologies that we have are ahead of the curve, and they're from Europe. We have things that are far superior. That's common, and we're introduced them to the marketplace. So much of it is cloud-based materials. Know what if you got a leak somewhere? We can tell you exactly where it is to the inch. I think so much of what we have is cloud-based, which saves so much time and saves so much money. So
Sure.
that's a bit of what we have. I mean, again, I could be here for a
What
long time.
what would you say is that 20% of calls you get that yields 80% of your deals throughout the year? Like, what's something that you sell over and over and over that you always get a call for?
Hmm. Well, we are a safety company, so we are always selling safety supplies, right? Whether it's gas detection or fall protection or clothing, right? Because we started as a safety company, but we've become so much more of an equipment company, and so we are selling systems. Know where the leaks are? That's a system. You want to know what the gas is or the flow rate is? These systems. So we have been West Coast Safety Supply for many years. The company started in 1999, but because we have, I was going to one of our customers and we sell them safety equipment, and I'm there selling him a truck. He says, Kent, why am I talking to you about a truck? He says, you're our safety guy. We buy masks and gas detection and from you. He says, why am I talking to you about a truck? Which the light came on. You know what? We're an equipment company too. And the perception is, so we have a DBA. We go under the name West Coast Equipment and Safety Supply because we sell a lot of equipment. So
Yeah, I'm sure. Once you make that relationship, once you get that inroad, it just flows from there. I'm sure. Justin, go ahead and tell us about your offerings, what you do, and then I guess what value you add to the root control community.
Yeah, so the products that I've worked with in the wastewater sewer industry are chemicals. I deal with all industrial chemistry and chemicals. And that I work with in the sewer business are a root control or several root control herbicides. And then we also sell a grease control chemical that's used, you add it to the water when you're cleaning a sewer, and it can cut your time down to a tiny fraction of what you're doing when you're trying to clean grease with water. And that it's very interesting too, because I remember the West Coast Safety actually gave me the best way to explain it. Imagine you're washing your pans they have grease in them, and you don't use soap, and it's just like that. I mean, if you're not using this chemical in the cleaning water, you're really wasting a lot of time. The thing we have is a biological grease control, which is really exciting. It has a kind of a industry. It's a very challenging product to sell because there's been lots of products over the years that overpromise and underdeliver. And so we're just brutally honest about it and explain that, look, if you have industrial chemicals coming in upstream that might interfere with this biological grease control, but if you have 15 lift stations and it works great on 3 of them, then just keep using it on those 3 and you'll save tons and tons of money and a lot of time and a lot of headache and a lot of odors and all sorts of things that cause problems. And then, so that's what I deal with in the sewer business. About 15 years ago, I started working with industrial transfer fluids, and it's a totally different market. Every now and then, it crosses paths with a wood treatment plant or something that has some unique boiler for some use, and but I deal with those, and that was really fun business because it kind of every day I get some call for some application and some unique question that I've never heard before. And it's like 15 years and you still feel like you're learning like all over again. There's all sorts of new things to learn. And the sewer business is very similar too, but the heat transfer fluid business, I mean, I'm dealing with pharmaceutical companies and oil refineries and all sorts of different people. And even the old-fashioned solar water heating that you don't see very often. We see that like in hotels and stuff, and so there's always some unique thing in that business that's really challenging and something new to learn about every day.
I like it. I like it.
Well, that is so true.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that is just so true. There's so many unique things that we get to experience and participate in. As you're talking about, boilers, Justin, when we drive out the 15 up to Vegas, right on the left side of the road, before you get into Nevada, you see all those, shiny mirrors, right? That's Ivanpah, or formerly called Ivanpah, and it's a big solar that shoots up onto a tower, which creates heat, which generates steam boiler. That's one of our customers. We support them. All different types of heat exchangers, chillers, evaporators, condensers, economizers, ships, Navy, right? It's just fun. All the different places we get to be able to participate in.
I love it, man. All right. So the last but not least, last topic of this show, we're talking about an event that's happening next month. Stock. So this will be my first time there. I'm pleased to be asked to to MC the event. I'm excited to meet more people in the industry. Turned down a trip to Southern California, but I'm excited to be there. Can't give us a rundown on what usually happens at Rootstock, what people can expect, and why they should sign up for it.
Sure. Rock is just a time to come together to be better equipped, informed on how to best treat roots and the multiple methods of how to do that. We're going to have several different professionals in the industry come and share techniques, as well as we're going to have representative from the county talk about current laws, because we have twofold fit. Because there are some people who are going to come in here because, as Justin's talking about an herbicide or a pesticide, we sell that Justin provides years. In order to buy that, you have to be qualified to be able to purchase it and to use it. So in order to get that, you have to have certain requirements. And this is going to be one of those requirements for the people who have a DPR, Department of Pesticide Regulations, QAL or QAC certificate or license. But in addition, this is our world of collections, treatment. So we are going to be providing one DPR units, but also for those CEA units of each. Not only is it for the people who are in the wastewater or the collections or the root industry, anybody who has the DPR QAL, a qualified applicator license or certificate. For example, cities who have that have trees or landscaping, any place where they're providing they get credit for this. So in order to keep that license up, there are requirements for that. Justin, you want to add anything on that respect?
Yeah. So if you work in a sewer department and you have a friend that works over in the parks department or streets department, or somebody that works at Caltrans or something like that, and they a pesticide applicator's license to apply herbicides in California, they'll have a great time. It's a great event, and it's a really a fun venue too. It's in a car museum, and it's every time I go there, I have as much fun looking around the museum on the breaks as I do the seminar.
I don't think you've been here, Joseph, or even know much about where we're having it at, but it's here in Orange County. It's in Anaheim. It is a place called the Highway 39 Event Center. And if you like cars, and if you like classic cars, this is the place. I mean, forget the seminar, forget the work, just go to the, and I don't mean to say it like that, but there are some amazing cars from the early 1900s until current day, whether they're hot rods, whether they're classics, whatever your fancy is, you will find it there. And it's just a great environment. It's fun, great food. It's a wonderful event center. And just to be with other people in the industry, it's very encouraging time. And hey, and we've got a great MC there too.
But to your point, that's one thing I love about these industry events is that some of us who work for ourselves or even out in sales, it's lonely out there, and when we can get around those in our industry and kind of rub off on that energy, like it rubs off on us. When you get around other people who are doing what you're doing or in the same, having the same adversities you're having, makes you feel like you're not alone. That's why I like going to conferences. That's why I like going to these seminars and events, because it keeps you out of your own brain and keeps you on the path. So I'm appreciative of you guys putting this together. I'm looking forward to coming out. And everybody should bring a friend, bring somebody in the industry. Even if you need to bring somebody who's younger and they're still trying to find their way in life. Like I always say, invite a youngster out. If they're working Uber or Chipotle or something, they want to get a career path. These are good events to go to learn more about the industry.
Yeah. We've many people in the industry to support this industry. So we have other professionals that are coming in that might not necessarily be speaking, but they're also going to be able to make things available to those who are participating and learning and growing. So we've usually this has been a higher price point item just because it's been, and so we've been able to reduce it so it's much more affordable for people as well. I'll make sure to give you the link, so when you make this available, that link will be there for people to get more information as well as online.
Sure thing, sure thing. All right, if somebody's searching for it on Google, where would they go to find it? We'll search for
Wow,
it.
that's a really good question. Rootstock 2023. It's November 15th. And best thing to do, just send us an email. If you don't find a link, it's sales@westcoastsafetysupply.com. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Right? But make sure
right.
that you get this, and hopefully we can share this with
Yep.
other people, and that link will be
Yep.
there.
I'll be sure to put the links in the description and all the comments and all in the description below. Any final words before we get out of here? Justin, you want to say anything, anybody?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Rootstock event. I do two of these around California every year. This year we're not doing the Northern California. Wait until next year because there's some new licensing requirements, and didn't have time to get that all squared away before the Northern California one. So I wouldn't be shocked if some people in Northern California show up for the Southern California one. But in any case, it's a fun event, and I love going to this. I meet new people every year, and it's a great place for also during the breaks to compare notes with other people in the industry and see what they're doing.
Gotcha. Kent, any final words?
No, I'm just thankful to be able to have this time to share with you and just the three of us here together, and hopefully it's been encouraging to those who've been able to watch it and be able to join us, and we can come along and support you all, so we can truly, I think that we're making this world a better place because of some of the things that we're doing together. So thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it. And Justin, thanks for being here as well.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys for hopping on. Yeah, thanks for talking about roots and root control and the Public Works podcast. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the event, and looking forward to seeing all of you listeners at the event. And let's shake hands, let's take a selfie together, and let's talk more about how we can make the world a better place through root control.
Great.